Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, to the 5:05 p.m. meeting of the September 3rd of the Temple Terrace special meeting of the City Council. We are here for two purposes. One is to establish the millage rate, and one is to first reading of the budget. And so, Mr. B, anything to begin with?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, no, Mr. Ingram's prepared to just start out. There's some language he has to read in for the record, and I've got a few slides to just complement what he's going to be presenting.
Okay, very well. Mr. Ingram. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Ross and City Council. It's that time of year again. And as required by the state of Florida, we do the millage rate presentation, the first hearing on the millage rate first, and then we do a separate on the budget. So I will start with the millage rate.
Well, let me open the public hearing formally here. So I'm going to open the public hearing, and Mr. Ingram is here to explain.
All right, thank you. In accordance with the applicable provisions of the city charter and the Florida statutes, the City Council scheduled two public hearings on the property tax millage rate levy. The first hearing is being held on September 3rd, 2025, to solicit public comments on the proposed property tax millage levy prior to the adoption of the annual budget for the 2026 fiscal year. The agenda has been structured to provide the council with the opportunity to comply with both city charter and Florida statutory requirements on the budget and tax levy. The council convened a public hearing on the proposed property tax millage levy and made announcements at the public hearing prior to the formal consideration of the attached ordinance. The recommended City of Temple Terrace, Florida, property tax millage rate for fiscal year 2026 is 6.455 per $1,000 of assessed value, which is the identical mill from the current fiscal year millage rate of 6.455. The recommended property tax millage rate of 6.455 is 0.3902 mils, or 6.43% higher than the rollback rate of 6.0648. The council should take action to approve the attached ordinance, approving the ad valorem tax rate for the upcoming fiscal year. If approved on first reading of the ordinance on September 3rd, 2025, it is to be scheduled for second and final reading on September 16th, 2025. Main reasons for the ad valorem tax revenues increasing: a proposed 4% cost of living adjustment to general employees, and a 2% merit pay increase upon a successful performance evaluation. Funding for the second year of a 3-year fire union contract. Funding for the third year of a 3-year police union contract. A projected 10% increase in general liability, property insurance, and auto insurance. A projected 12% increase in health insurance. 2.9% increase in operational costs to maintain funding of current services and programs. This does also include cost reductions, including $259,300 in debt service payments due to making the final payment this month in fiscal year 2025 on the Temple Terrace Country Club loan through Wells Fargo. A 2/3 vote of the governing body is required to adopt the millage rate of 6.4550. And I will stand for questions. I know Carlos has a presentation. I don't know if you want to do that at this time, but I do need to read also, it is recommended that City Council approve the ordinance on first reading and schedule a public hearing at second reading for September 16th, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Mr. Baya?
Sure, Mr. Mayor, members of council, if Mr. Hill can just bring up the slides on the screen. Okay, so not to repeat what Director Ingram has stated, but just to provide you a little bit more of a historical and geographical context for the questions and discussion of the millage rate. So it's showing up there. There you go. So the final property value, so the tax value growth rate for our community the upcoming year is going to be 4.3% for a taxable value of $3,218,733,959. As you know, per statute, we take 95% of that ad valorem revenue. We multiply it again by 6.455 mils, which is what Director Ingram stated is the proposed millage rate. And we also add in the Hampton Oaks Special Assessment, which Council recently enacted again. Every year we do that. That's $10,500. You put those two numbers together and you get $19,748,581 in ad valorem revenue. Now, just to see how our revenue has been doing over the last several years for this community. So if you look at this chart in 2023, you see the significant jump, and that was when the Amazon facility came online. So there was a 24.35% increase there. Then it was 9.46% the subsequent year in 24, 5.26 in 25, and then 4.3% this year. So what's telling about this is that our community, like all communities in the Tampa area, we've been riding this wave of growth. You'll see the slope is starting to flatten out, and that will likely continue. I think our new normal is probably going to be somewhere between 3 to 5% in a given year. Now, there might be a blip here and there if we get a new project, but I think that's the neighborhood we're probably going to be in. So that growth pattern, if you invert that same growth pattern, you can see here it basically mirrors our millage rate. So historically, this is now the 9th consecutive year the city of Temple Terrace will not have a millage rate increase. That's a great statistic to have. And I think many communities would be envious of us for getting to that point. Again, it's in part due to that tax-based growth, but also due to the work of Director Ingram and the entire finance department in managing our budget and making sure that they take advantage of every single penny that we can to make all the numbers work. And of course, as you know, ad valorem is not the totality of the budget, but it is the largest single source of revenue for our general fund. Now, I wanted to also place our conversation in terms of where we stand geographically. So if you see this slide here, is if you take, I think when somebody gets a tax bill, they're a property owner, they're not necessarily looking at each individual taxing authority. What they're looking at is what's the total bill going to be. So if you look at the total, taking all the taxing authorities and you're a property owner in Temple Terrace, your total tax bill next year, or this current year, I should say, is going to be 19.5319 mils. If you are in the city of Tampa, and I compare ourselves primarily to Tampa because when we compete for employees, for example, the recruitment pool, it's largely Tampa where we compete with. They're also physically connected to us. So if you're in the city of Tampa, your overall bill there, you're a property owner, you're going to be at 19.8428 mils. So right now we are under the total burden relative to the city of Tampa if you're a resident there. And stand for any questions along with Director Ingram.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Baya. So for the record, there are no members of the public here, so there's no public comment. So council members, questions? Councilmember Kravitz.
This is to Mr. Ingram. I just wanted to ask whether I heard that correctly. We're about to receive the final payment from the golf course on the loan that the city extended to them. Was that accurate?
No, we are making the making the final payment of the original loan from 2005. So we will be debt-free from it. The golf course is still reimbursing us for that loan.
I understand. That was to rebuild the building, right?
I don't know off the top of my head all the details of it. I do know that that was part of it, if not all of it. Maybe some other members of the council remember.
It's a mix. I mean, it was a bunch, it was the clubhouse, the cart barn, the maintenance area, all that. It was all in, the pool was renovated. There was all that.
Interesting. Okay. Do you happen to know if the golf course is current with its payments to us at the moment? I know that's been a discussion occasionally.
Yes, as a matter of fact, the new model that they worked on this past year, they're actually right now exceeding what the current, because we haven't actually changed the agreement, but we had an agreement that they would be paying $125,000 a year, $31,000 a quarter. And for the last at least 6 months, they have been trending just slightly above that.
Great.
So it's a big turnaround. And they've been consistent, paying on the 15th of every month and sending us the reports that I believe Mr. Bay has been sending to the council.
That was wonderful news. Thank you.
Yep.
Really happy to hear that. And just final question to City Manager. We discussed, I think it was probably 2, maybe 3 months ago, whether we might have an itemization of the individual amenities planned for Riverside Park. I was curious if there's been any movement on that.
So I do plan to bring that to the council. I apologize that it's been a little bit delayed on our end here. We have that information, and we'll be presenting it to the council shortly.
Okay. And if we move ahead with the budget today, just a question about process. If we wished to revisit the funding that's appropriated for Riverside Park, potentially to look for savings, or to maybe focus the scope of the park on the most desired amenities, would we still be in a position to do that, or to reclaim the money that's been put in the budget, or would that require an amendment?
So right now, there's $3.4 million in the budget from the current fiscal year in the capital budget, basically, for the park. This budget, the 26 budget, if you recall, from the CRA is contributing an additional $400,000 to that park. That money, you could look at reformulating that money, repurposing that money if the council so desired. Once you go through the whole park thing, we can phase it. There's different ways you may want to consider to address the park project. But you're not bound, those dollars are basically still there, so you're not bound by that.
Great. And
If I may clarify, the 3.4 million and the 400,000 plugged in from the TIF, it's not general fund or unassigned. That is for the construction, which we haven't even broken ground, but it's appropriated for the construction. The cost of the design, that was appropriated, I think, 2 years ago, and that's what we've been using currently.
And final question for the city manager. We've had some alarming overruns recently due to our aging water and sewer infrastructure. I guess my question is twofold. One is, do we need to appropriate something in order to create to give you the resources you might need to manage those projects in a more effective way? Is there anything that we might be able to do in that respect?
So the water and sewer are those projects are going to be in the water and sewer fund, so they're rate dependent. So we've proposed a rate increase that'll be considered at the next meeting on 2 weeks from yesterday, actually. And Right now, based on the projects we have in there, we're comfortable where they are. Now, if there are overruns, which there might be depending on inflationary pressures or details you find from projects, we'll bring those to your attention like we have done in the past. There's a reserve built into the water and sewer fund as well as the reserve built into sanitation, for example. So that reserve is there for a reason in case there are these unforeseen issues that we can address, and we can use the reserve to draw down and pay for those overruns. So right now, I think we're in a good place. I think in the future, we are going to have some more demands on the water fund. Obviously, the PFAS discussion, whatever comes out of that, regardless of whether it's an independent treatment solution or some sort of hybrid where we partner with a different entity and buy some water as well as do treatment, there's going to be a revenue bond likely that's going to be required to pay for that, I would imagine, based on the scale of costs we're talking about. And that will impact whatever future rates will be assessed to the customers. And that'll address that question about having enough reserve to accommodate for those costs.
Thank you for indulging me. I yield the floor.
Vice Mayor, anything? No questions. Anything? Okay, remember, we're talking about the millage rate. We've got
Yes.
the budget as the next item. So-
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Fernandez.
Okay, so I do want to just make sure that the people watching understand that we're discussing the general fund tonight, which is a separate fund from the enterprise funds, which are water and sewer. And the general fund, when we set this millage, it can only fund the items that go through general fund spending, and that the general fund can't actually give money to the water and sewer funds. So I know that's been a question in the past. Well, how is my millage not covering, why do we need a rate increase in those funds or something like that? But this millage, based on our property values, can only fund what's happening and what can be paid for in the general fund. So my question before we approve the millage rate is that we've obviously had multiple workshops and we've discussed how this millage rate will provide the funding necessary for the expenditures that we have determined we need in order to meet our goals. Has anything changed in the analysis, assumptions, and budget items since we discussed them at the previous workshops?
Nothing materially. There's just a few $1,000 difference in the general fund of what we presented at the workshops. The reserve, the expected money going back to the reserve is still the same $59,000, $59,908, I think, $59,000 and change. So nothing of a material nature has come up to make a change since the workshops.
Well, can I,
Councilmember, or
it's me.
City Manager.
So, just not to disagree, but we had estimates for health insurance.
Oh, okay. Well, I was
Yeah.
referring just to the budget numbers, but go
Right.
ahead. That's
Right, we're going to talk about that in the next slide deck. We'll talk about what's in the budget was based on the estimates in the last several week or so. We've now gotten some firmed up numbers for some of our health insurance costs. So there's a change there.
The only thing I want to establish right now is that we discussed and we agreed to this millage when we had the conversation, all the budget workshops, and I just want to make sure that we know, and that anyone listening knows, that this millage is still the millage that meets all of the spending necessity and that will fulfill the goals of the city, so.
all right.
So just to be clear, it won't meet all the funding necessities.
Well, obviously, we have
There's
different
other-
revenue
right,
sources,
right.
but yes, this is the millage that, there needs to be no change to the millage to meet our spending goals.
Right.
Okay.
Councilmember Chambers, anything?
No.
Very good. If there are no other questions, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting a millage rate of 6.455 mils for the fiscal year 2026. Said millage rate being .3902 mils or 6.43% more than the rolled back rate of 6.0648 mils, directing the city clerk to provide certified copies of this ordinance to the county property appraiser, county tax collector, and the State Department of Revenue, providing a severability clause and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Move to approve the ordinance adopting a millage rate of 6.455 mils for fiscal year 2026.
Second.
Do we need to say first?
On first reading.
I'm sorry, on first reading.
Second.
Discussion of the motion. All those in favor say
Roll
aye.
call. Must be roll.
Oh, we need a roll call vote. Ms. Sater, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Councilmember Chambers.
Aye.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schlichler.
Aye.
And Mayor Ross.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously on first reading. Ordinance will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, September the 16th at our normally scheduled council meeting at 6 p.m. Very good. Next is the first public hearing and first reading of an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2026 annual budget. I'll open the public hearing and ask our Finance Director, Jim Ingram, to explain.
Thank you. This is the overall budget. It covers what we just talked about, the general fund, plus all the other funds. And so some of this may sound repetitive. First of all, I do want to give a thanks to all the city staff, especially the directors and all the departments. This is a big process. Everyone pitches in and helps put together this budget. They are always great to work with, very cooperative and very helpful in putting this together. The second is I want to thank our finance team. There's two of them here, our assistant director and our finance operations manager. But let me say, I have to say this, we have an amazing team, and I wouldn't say that if it wasn't true. These guys are great leaders. These ladies are great leaders, and we have an excellent staff that have worked very hard and help us to be able to do this kind of work, to be able to present a sound budget to you. So on to the budget discussion. The proposed 2026 budget reflects the following. The millage rate of 6.455 has not changed from last year's millage rate. $824,200 in capital projects are using unassigned general fund balance. These are general fund projects. And $331,317 of non-capital operating expenses that are not like reoccurring annual costs are also being funded with unassigned fund balance, which is simply our reserves. The importance of that is it doesn't affect the millage rate because it's money we've already earned and received, and it's in a reserve bank, so we don't need to use the millage rate, the ad valorem taxes, to budget for these expenditures. This 4% COLA salary increase for all general employees, 2% for merit pay increase upon a successful performance evaluation. Just a note on I mentioned earlier the paying off of the Wells Fargo Country Club loan. With that, we will only have, as of today, or not as of today, but as of October 1st, 2025, we will only have the redevelopment loan remaining, and by the end of fiscal year 26, the outstanding principal will be down to $9.3 million. We have, as discussed, added $400,000 from the tax increment fund, that's our CRA money, to fund additional construction costs, if we do that, for the Riverside Park, with over $700,000 remaining in the TIF reserve. So the TIF reserve is starting to build now that we finally, a couple of years ago, we got past the always having to use all the money coming in to pay off the loan. We are now at a point where we're adding to that reserve. $3 million of resurfacing projects, half of which are reimbursable from the county surtax funds, which I understand are being handled by FDOT now, and an additional half, or $1.5 million, from the city street improvement fund. An additional $2,250,000 of capital projects from the street improvement fund, including $750,000 earmarked for the Brentwood Drive and South River Hills Drive stormwater construction project, $350,000 for stormwater retention ponds rehabilitations and pipe relining, $360,000 in sidewalk improvements, and $500,000 for roadway improvements to Sunnyside Road. We have over $2 million in capital projects funded through the Community Investment Tax, or CIT. That includes $705,088 in public safety projects and equipment, $694,500 in leisure services, which includes $70,000 for renovations to the public library restroom and $250,000 for River Hills playground improvements. Those are just some of the highlights. We are also funding a utilities project as allowed with CIT funds for the Montrose Avenue Gravity Main replacement at $500,000. An additional $200,000 is being used from CIT to fund a new stormwater master plan. Going on to the enterprise funds. We have in this budget plugged in a 5% increase in single-family residential and commercial sanitation rates beginning October 1st, 2025, to offset costs, including $600,000 to replace 2 aging residential sanitation trucks and an 18% increase, yes, 18% increase from Hillsborough County for waste disposal. The addition of new revenue in 2025 from a service and scrap material agreement with Amazon is also helping to offset the county's disposal increase. If it wasn't for that, we may have to look at a higher rate than 5%. But Mr. Wardenfeltz has done a great job getting new business commercial accounts and adding this sanitation, this Amazon account, which is very significant. We also have plugged in a 5% increase in water, sewer, and irrigation rates increase beginning October 1st, 2025 to offset cost, including $3,755,940 in water and sewer infrastructure improvements. Among these are $2 million for the lift station SB construction and a 3% increase, annual increase in the wastewater rates from the city of Tampa. As Mr. Bay stated, in 2 weeks we do by resolution the rate increases in conjunction with adopting the budget. There are, I know, a lot of questions about this. We have some unknown costs down the road regarding the system, the water system even some of our capital improvement schedule, which we are working with the consultant. At this time, this is what we're plugging in and suggesting, because we don't know the full gamut of those costs that may, come down to something next year that we will have to address in the water and sewer fund, or perhaps even this year. We are allowed to do more than one rate increase during the year if needed. But seeing that we don't have any of those numbers yet, we are going with what we do know. There are also 5 FTEs added in the enterprise funds, 2 in utilities, 3 in sanitation. 2 new funds have been added to record revenues that have specific funding uses. A grants fund was created to record governmental non-enterprise grants and funding related to revenues and expenditures for police, fire, EMS, stormwater, FEMA, leisure services, and other applicable projects receiving external funding. One of the reasons why this is important is because when that gets mixed in the general fund, it skews the numbers, and we're looking at, wow, we budgeted $5 million here and we've only spent so much. So having a separate grants fund where we can keep all of those special items, other governments do that. We thought it's time we do that too, to alleviate any confusion when we're looking at our reports. A mobility fees fund was created to separate street impact or mobility fees and related expenditures from other fuel taxes that serve as revenues in the street improvement fund. Mobility impact fees can only be used to address growth and capacity needs in the community. Separating these revenues and expenditures will aid the city to comply with Florida state statutes for reporting purposes. It's another case of this helps us just keep it in one fund so it's not intermingled with the other fuel taxes for similar projects, but not the street improvement would be for projects that don't qualify as addressing growth and capacity. I will say that the attachments you have include a budget summary, which I think Mr. Bahia will be showing you in a minute. That format is what the state requires us to use. We also have the attachments that list all of the capital projects. I sent you a link last week with the full budget with department narratives. This has been posted on the city's website. If you want to find it on the website, you go to our homepage, then to Departments and City Services, then click Finance. Ignore that picture of me. Then click on Budget and Financial Reports, and it will be at the very top. It'll say fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. It's the very top item. And it's about 81 pages long, but it has the full budget in there. It is recommended that City Council approve the ordinance on first reading and schedule a public hearing and second reading for September 16th, 2025. And I believe Mr. Bahia has some more slides to show you relating to the entire budget.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Mr. Bahia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hill, could you just bring up the slides, please? So Jim did a great job going over most of the detail. Again, I'm going to try and just keep this broad, address a few issues, give some context. So when we started the budget, one of the things that, and you've seen this slide before, one of the things that was very important to us is to make sure, obviously, that we had certain guiding principles. One, of course, was the main was meeting council priorities. We were also always start out with the goal of not increasing the millage. We were successful there. We were also looking to provide an emphasis on professional development to enhance our services through efficiencies. Of course, we have union obligations. We're going to continue funding those union obligations. We're going to talk about that shortly. And then maintaining our city competitiveness. And this general fund budget also does not propose any new FTEs. So the budget summary that Mr. Ingram just alluded to is here. So this is just an understanding of, you can see the full breadth of the total budget. So if you work from the left to the right, you'll see the general fund is programmed to be $40,755,896. The special revenue funds are, Mr. Ingram just went through those. Grants fund, street improvement, mobility, building fund, CIT, and TIF. That's at $17,879,458. The debt service fund, which again now is just the remaining downtown redevelopment debt, $907,134. The enterprise funds here, water, sewer related funds, as well as sanitation, that's $40,247,741. The internal service fund here is the fleet fund, and that's $680,604 for a total city budget of $100,470,833. The biggest driver, as the council's aware, for our budgets typically are wages and benefits, personnel costs. So we are entering the third year of our police union contract, so we will be negotiating a new contract probably starting sometime March, perhaps. So the police union, this third year, they have a cost of living adjustment at 4.5%. They also have an additional step of 4%. The fire union will be entering their second year. They have a COLA of 4 and a step of 3.7, an average of 3.7. As has been mentioned, the general employees, we have a COLA of 4% and then a 2% bump on their successful merit increase at their anniversary. The insurance costs have, as I mentioned, they've come in the last several days, so this hasn't been changed necessarily. But the health insurance premium renewal came in at 7.5%. Liability, property, and workers' comp came in at 9%. Because of this, what we are recommending is that we take some of the savings that we have here, and we do for a second year in a row, we absorb the premium increase and not pass it on to the employees. That's what we did last year. It was very well received by that. If you recall, for years, the city struggled in terms of dependent care coverage. We were very out of market when it came to that. So everybody's worked very hard, and I thank the council's support to keep those premiums to the employees at an affordable level. Last year, we absorbed the increase. I recommend doing the same thing again this year in the budget. We've programmed that in now. And that'll keep us, I think right now, we're the most competitive in terms of the county or Tampa right now, in terms of our health costs, health insurance costs. This budget also contemplates the use of unassigned fund balance, $824,200 in capital projects, $331,317 in non-capital purchases for the amount that's referenced there that Mr. Ingram's also mentioned. The important part here you're probably going to ask is, what does this do to our reserve? So if we chip away at $1.155 million, what does that leave in our reserve? And you can see on this next slide that we had a ratio, our target, if council will recall, last year we increased. It used to be 20% was the ratio between the reserve, our unassigned fund balance, we're using those terms interchangeably here, and the operating budget. And last year we felt comfortable enough recommending to the council that we increase that number, that target, to 25% or better. Council agreed. So I'm happy to say that at the end of this year, we still anticipate we're going to be above that. We anticipate being at 31.2%. And next year, even with the expenditure that was on just the last slide, using unassigned fund balance, we should still be at about 28.7% projected for the end of next year. So we are above those targets. The next thing I want to bring your attention to is just the use of the community investment tax. So this budget includes $2,289,588 of CIT usage. CIT, as I've referenced here before, is an incredible asset for our community. It's a tool that doesn't exist in many places. And here it's been growing very well for us. You can see here the growth in CIT revenue to the city. And it allows us to pay for almost the entirety of our police and fire fleets, a lot of other equipment as well. We can buy through CIT, as well as Parks and Rec. So it's been a boon to us. And I want to thank the voters, again, who approved the renewal of the CIT. So this slide, again, is from the county, and it shows that we are scheduled to receive, under the 15-year renewal, over those 15 years, we're going to schedule to receive over $53 million projected from the CIT. So that, again, will help our budgets and help us keep our equipment up to date and our parks and playgrounds looking the best way they possibly can. And having said that, I stand for any questions, as does Director Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. B. Council members' questions. Councilmember Fernandez.
So I just want to ask if you can clarify the process if we need to look at water rates after we find out what's happening with the PFAS remediation.
Good question. It does require, if we were to consider, once we have the numbers, we will take a look at our pro forma. You know, we try to maintain that best practices 25% ratio also on the enterprise funds. So we'll take a look at that, see where we, with our latest numbers and trends, based on how we are going to be structured, whether it's a revenue bond or maybe working something out with the local, a regional approach or a combination. We will look at and determine what kind of rate increase would we then need to fund this going forward. After that, of course, we would present it to council, or Mr. Baio would, and it would take, before council could approve it by resolution, we would have to send a notice out to every utility billing customer. It's required to go through the utility bill itself, which we have done for this round as well, notifying of the date, the time of a discussion on a rate increase. So that's the process.
Mr. B.
Just to add to that, and we've mentioned this in a prior meeting, if we do end up having to do a revenue bond, you're required to have a rate study done, a formal rate study, and then you're going to be required to have fixed rates because that's the security against the bond. So that's a little different because that takes a little bit. You still have some say, but it takes a little bit of that say away from you because there's going to be, this is the rate. You have to lock this in rate because you have the fiduciary obligation to the bondholders to make sure that that's the rate that stays there, and they can build on that.
Okay. I just wanted to get it out there in case people were wondering. And then the new funds that you added, like the grant funds, for example, will that fund have all revenue from grants, but will it also have all of the expenditures for the grants?
Yes.
Okay. So they'll be.
That way we can track them easily and it won't skew the general fund budget.
Okay, and then I know that we discussed this, but I just want to make sure we answer it in case somebody's wondering. For the non-capital expenditures that we're using unassigned fund balance, I just want to make sure those are not for recurring ordinary expenses, correct?
Correct. That's not a good practice. We look for items in the operational expenditures that are out of the ordinary, that may be one-time expenditures. They don't qualify as capital, but they're an operational expense. Or they might be something we only do every 5 years or 3 years, so forth, and So, good question.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Chambers, anything? Vice Mayor, anything?
Yeah, I got a few. The ARPA reserves, are they sitting on the balance sheet or are they part of the total reserves?
ARPA, no, that is,
It's encumbered on the balance sheet. It's not part of the 11 mil.
it's not, no.
Okay, good, all right.
Yeah, it's in its own separate pot. We've already received those funds. So
Right.
as we spend the money, we take it out of the little pot
Right.
that's outside of the, and then apply it as a revenue
I just wanted to make
to
sure.
match the
it wasn't
expenditure.
In the underside. Okay. Capital, go to capital, please, Mr. Baya. The remediation, potential remediation projects, are they in this capital plan
Which remediation project?
with the county, the ones we were discussing with the county?
The remediation projects for the county. Sorry, I'm trying to,
Offset any penalties?
Fowler
Huh? No,
Avenue.
Fowler Avenue.
oh, yes,
We
okay,
included those
that's
in
with the
here?
environmental.
I'm sorry,
protection.
I'm
Yeah,
not
okay.
describing it properly.
Yep. So are those programmed? No, they're not programmed in.
Okay, that's fine, that's fine.
Tell us what you were talking about. I'm not clear.
Sure. So what the Vice Mayor is referring to is the Environmental Protection Commission issued a penalty
Oh, those, okay.
for the Fowler Avenue project because of the sanitary sewer overrun that happened back in May.
Okay, and related to the new grant funds, are they all general fund grants, or is there any utility fund grants, and can they be commingled?
Not the enterprise
That's what I meant,
funds.
the-
They're governmental, some of the special revenue funds are considered governmental activities and the,
Well, I'm talking about the new grants, the new grant.
yes.
funds. Okay, all right, so there's just.
It's mostly
all
general
general
fund money.
Okay.
Well, I wouldn't say, could there be some in the special revenue funds
There could be, as long as it's governmental.
Miss Miller.
activities? They separate governmental activities from like proprietary or, what's the word?
So the enterprise funds, the business type funds,
Right.
those, any grants for that would have to stay in the enterprise fund.
Okay, that was.
Yes, so,
it's
yeah, so the grant
essentially all
fund,
general fund stuff.
yes.
Okay, all right. And I had one word, I can't decipher my writing. I'll reserve the right to come back if I can figure out what I wrote.
Councilmember Kravitz?
Mostly directed to our legal department on a couple of these points. First question would be the lift station SB with the $2 million allocation. Is that contract with an external provider, or are we doing that on our own? Do you have?
Sorry, which contract?
Is there a contract on this lift station SB?
So, yeah, so the lift station SB, yeah, that's going to be an external contractor.
Yeah, I assumed so. I just want to make sure. And are there any safeguards in that contract regarding a cost overrun? Is it a fixed price, or is it as worked contract?
So that project is in the FY26 budget, so we haven't issued a
Oh, okay.
contract because it
So
has,
it hasn't happened yet?
Yes.
Good, okay, just checking, thank you, sorry about that. I understand now, that's good. And the other question relates to the, not to the legal department anymore now, regarding the street sweeper and 2 sanitation trucks. Out of curiosity, do they come with a warranty, or is this also a situation where we are not yet aware of where we're getting them, this is just budgeted for, and is there any information that has been gathered in that direction?
Not specifically, but Mr. Warnfelt, maybe.
so I can probably answer that. I can speak to the sanitation trucks for sure.
Okay.
They do typically come with a warranty, just like a typical vehicle warranty that comes. And the street sweeper, I would imagine, has a warranty too. I'm getting the nod there, yes. So we haven't purchased these, but they typically, based on our past experience, will come with warranties.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I'm just thinking in terms of making sure that we don't overextend on some of these things. And I'd be curious to know whether an analysis was done with respect to these vehicles, because I think in total they're somewhere around 1.5 million, to compare purchase with a lease, if lease is an option for these kinds of vehicles.
So I don't believe we did a lease analysis for these vehicles. Jason, you want to maybe come up? And I will tell you, based on our experience, because we do acquire these, based on the vehicles these are replacing, they've been here for a long time. So we typically buy and keep these things and run them kind of into the ground.
They don't make them like they used to.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi.
Jason Morfiles, Public Works Director, Mayor, City Council. So we currently are leasing a residential garbage truck, and we have been because of the age of the current fleet and the downtimes we've experienced. I have inquired about purchasing the leased unit, and we would spend more than half of the value of the vehicle to buy the lease out if we continue to maintain that vehicle. So, and this is not the first one that we've leased since I've been here. So the previous leases we've had, at the end of the lease, the city has invested anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000 to rehab that vehicle back to an appropriate condition to return it. It's not negligence, it's just normal wear and tear that when we sign the lease, that's part of the agreement. Some things happen. We have low tree canopy, just normal wear and tear that we have to rehab these things. So from my experience, and my recommendation is not to lease them. We would spend more money just leasing a vehicle and then trying to turn it back in at the end of that than we would if we buy it and then run it as hard as we do and as long as we do, and then cash out with the little bit we get at the auction at the end.
Sure. All right. Sounds like you're pretty confident that you're able to maintain them in good shape and that we don't need the lease in terms of having to give them back if they run into issues.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, since I've been here, the fleet department has done a tremendous job of keeping these on, and I say we have downtime, but we also have a large service area that we provide exceptional service compared to what other communities give. Residential gets 2 times pickup a week, where that's not a common thing close to us. And we have a dedication through our staff and our fleet to provide for them. So fleet's doing a phenomenal job. We have our downtimes, but it's hit or miss.
Yeah. Thanks. Just last comment, I think the 5% increase for sanitation, we might want to look at that a little more carefully because there have been a lot of costs in that department, but otherwise I yield the floor. Thanks.
Vice Mayor, you
Okay.
remembered your,
Good.
okay. No further questions, I'll close the hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting the final operating budget for fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2025, and ending September 30th, 2026, and the capital improvement budget, acknowledging satisfaction of statutory requirements for preparing and adopting the budget, authorizing the city manager to issue such instructions as are necessary to achieve and accomplish the service programs, authorizing the city manager or the finance director to transfer monies among the departments and programs within any fund, authorizing the city manager or the finance director upon receipt of a donation or grant to appropriate said funds in the expenditure line item of the program as requested by the donor, grantor, adopting the recitals as legislative findings and intent, providing a severability clause, providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, is there a motion?
Move to adopt the fiscal year 2026 annual budget for first hearing and first reading.
Second.
Motion is second. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll call vote? Oh, is there a discussion? I'm sorry, is there a discussion of the motion?
I just want to say one thing.
Councilmember Fernandez.
I do want to commend the finance department and all of the department heads because I know that you all put a great deal of effort into determining the best way to maintain the quality of service and achieve council goals with being very fiscally responsible. And it would be nice if other areas around us actually budgeted with the same model. But for those wondering, the model is you take your contractually obligated expenditures And then you take what it's required to meet the goals and the needs to serve the citizens, and then you establish what you're able to spend. So I think that you all have done a very good job, and I commend you.
Other discussion of the motion, Vice Mayor?
I'd like to echo that. I've been doing this for almost 40 years, and I know how hard it is and how well you guys work together. And I remember what it was like years ago within the city. So kudos to you guys and to the staff and everybody that supports them and provides the information, because it's to be done now and to be friends still is and work together is quite an accomplishment. So.
Other discussion?
No, Mayor,
Oh, Councilmember Chambers.
I don't want to be left out on the thanks, so thank you very much. It's a great process, and to my colleagues up here on the dais too. Thank you. We worked hard on it.
Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Chambers.
Aye.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Aye.
Councilmember Kravitz.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Schlichler.
Aye.
And Mayor Ross.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The budget is adopted on first reading. Ordinance will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, September 16th, 2025 at our regularly scheduled council meeting here at 6 p.m. So I too want to commend you. It's been a rough fiscal year for all of you. I know it's been trying with the storms, and the challenges that we've had this fiscal year have been it's been difficult. And so I've seen the stress on you and your colleagues, and just know that we appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. We know that this doesn't happen automatically, and that every one of you, whether your department is large or small, have contributed to this financial stability of the city, which makes it really much easier for us to interact with the residents and talk to the residents about where we are and where we came from. And these slides that show back to 2015, 2016 era and show where we've come from are basically the talking points that I use almost every time I talk to groups of citizens. And so many of you were not here, but those of you who were know where we came from, and that this process was not nearly as transparent or orderly or, professional as it is now. And so I think that residents of the city can have confidence that we're good stewards of their funds and that we're heading in the right direction. And that is only possible because of the work that you and your teams do. We can vote and fund the budget and approve it, but it takes the city manager, the city attorney, the city clerk, and all of you and your teams to make this really work. And so thank you on behalf of the people of the city, the residents. So thank you very much. Anything else from Mr. Bia, or are we ready to adjourn? We will stand adjourned. Thank you, guys. Boom, boom.
Yeah, 14 is good. Well,